This episode is brought to you by the law offices of Rene A. Flores. Hashtag DWI expert.
What is it?
All right. It's Ron's top 5 NFL games this week now.
Man.
Bro.
Oh, my God. All right. So we had, it was a Sunday night game on NBC. You had the Cowboys versus the Rams. 17-20 was the final score. It was at the new SoFi Stadium. It's a $5 billion stadium. It was, I mean, the thing looks insane. But first drive of the game, the Rams came out early. The Dallas defense didn't know what the heck they were doing. The Rams were passing the ball. They scored right away. They were up 7-0. They were hitting little quick passes here and there, keeping the Dallas defense, on their toes, keeping them spread out. And what they were saying is that the Cowboys have these awesome pass rushers, and they were being able to get to the quarterback because he was just dinking it and dumping it.
Yeah.
So anyway, that led to the first score for the Rams. They went up 7-0 early. And then the very next drive, they just gave it to Zeke, man. They fed him. He started running right away. They were, feeding him. And he was catching the ball out of the backfield. He actually scored the first touchdown of the year for the Cowboys as a receiver. And that was one of the things that people liked about him coming out of college is, yes, he can run the ball. He's a three down back, which means he can be, on the field, first down, second down, third down, but he's a great pass catcher. So they got the first touchdown that way. I have him on my fantasy team. So he gave me some points right away. I was super excited, man. So CeeDee Lamb came out early. They got him a couple targets.
I was seeing CeeDee Lamb, man. He looked good, dude.
Oh, man, he looked great.
He's going to be a good player, and he's real skinny, dude, right?
Yeah, he's predominantly a slot guy. Slot guys, smaller guys, kind of like a Wes Welker, Julian Edelman kind of guy. Kind of what Randall Cobb was to them last year before he got traded to the Texans.
Yeah.
But he gives you that inside because you already have Cooper on the outside, and then you have that long play capability with Gallup, which he got screwed over at the end, but we're going to get there. And then you have CeeDee Lamb on the inside. So this Cowboys offense should have put up
it's great,
amazing points.
Yeah.
But it's just they tease you and they tease you. And Texans, it was first official game of this season. It was the Texans and the Chiefs. The Texans lost 20-34 at KC. Houston did score first, though. They scored first. They scored early. They went up 7-0. Watson's probably is the best player on the team now. Very mobile, quarterback. He can pass and he can run. I believe he had a rushing TD. He did have a rushing TD in the game. They just traded. Remember the Hopkins, their receiver last year, the guy with the dreadlocks? Yeah. They traded him to the Cardinals, and they got David Johnson, which is their running back, and he scored early in the game. Everything looked good early for the Texans. I mean, they were up. They were giving, the Chiefs trouble, actually. And then all of a sudden, of course, here come the Chiefs. They're the defending Super Bowl champs for a reason. Mahomes got...
And they're predicted to go back, right?
Oh, yes. I mean, they might have the best core four in the league right now. So you have Mahomes as the quarterback. You have Kelsey as a tight end. You have this new running back who's a rookie, Hilaire, and they have a Hill, which is their receiver too. So super strong. They have a lot of options. Kelsey scored a TD. He killed me in fantasy because I was playing against him. So I got wrecked with Kelsey. But I mean, to make a long story short, in the Texas game, I mean, they tried, but they just didn't have the firepower to compete with that, KC offense.
Yeah.
So
and they were predicted to, lose the game as well.
Yes.
Dallas was predicted to win.
Yeah. Dallas was actually favored early by 3.
Yeah.
Before game time, it went to a pick'em game. So a lot of bettors were actually taking the Rams. In this game, the Chiefs were favored by 9, and then they ended up winning by 14. So. I mean, you can't really knock the Texans. Yes, I give it to you, Texans fans. You did play against the Super Bowl champs.
Yeah.
Your very first game at their field.
Yeah.
So, and you lost your best receiver, and you got David Johnson, which just goes to show that Bill O'Brien is trash. As much as people say that he's not, a lot of he's the coach for the Texans. A lot of people don't want him there anymore, and they wonder why they still have Bill O'Brien. So, okay, we had the Packers and the Vikings. The reason I wanted to talk about this game is because it was a division game. It was in Minnesota, and a lot of people have been counting out Aaron Rodgers. You know, they're like, oh, he's over the hill.
Ya está viejón.
Exactly. They drafted a new quarterback too. So everybody's like, oh, they drafted a quarterback. Rodgers is out. You know, they got this, you know, young guy. But at the beginning of the game, the Vikings score with Dalvin Cook. He had some really, really good stats for the game. I think he had 2 TDs. He rushed for 12. He rushed 12 times for 50 yards. Let me see. And then he had the Vikings' first TD. And then you had Rodgers, the typical gunslinger, you know, mentality, just like Brett Favre was in Green Bay before he got there. They had a couple trick plays. They did an end around to Valdez-Scantling. But he has a lot of weapons, just like Mahomes does. You know, Devontae Adams had a massive game. For the Packers, I think he had 14 catches, 156 yards, and 2 TDs. So whoever had him in fantasy, oh boy, were they pretty happy. Rodgers had it was his 24th game with 4 passing touchdowns. So he's had 24 games in his career where he's thrown for 4 touchdowns.
He's amazing, bro.
He actually passed Brett Favre. They ended up winning 43-34. And it was funny because before halftime, with like 40 seconds left, the score was only 8-7. And then the Packers got a interception and they scored a touchdown. And then it was like 22-10 going into half, and it was like 8-7. So they scored a bunch of points right before the half.
You know what freaks me out about Aaron Rodgers? He's like, you never see him all over emotional. He's like real calm, cool, and
collected. Man.
And then he's thrown some of the greatest like Hail Marys ever
against the Cowboys too.
Yeah,
man.
dude. I mean, they catch him. I mean, that dude has an arm, girl, crazy.
Yeah, typical gunslinger, and he's actually. I mean, with the game like this, people, you know, we're kind of pushing him to the side, but he's a possible MVP candidate this year. He wants to prove a lot of people wrong because he hears it too. You know, hey, he's over the hill. You know, he's done, and you want to prove people wrong. And I mean, he did that. I mean, there's
another guy that they say might be over the hill. We'll talk about him in a little bit. What's the next game after that?
The next game is we had the 49ers and the Cardinals. I wanted to touch on this game because it was an upset. The 49ers were favored, and the Cardinals came out and won 20-24. And they were the NFC champs last year, the 49ers, you know, and they lost to, you know, the Cardinals. So you had 49ers came out early. They were up 10-0. They hit a field goal. Then they had a long touchdown by Morsier, I think that's the way you pronounce his name. They were looking good early, man. But then the Cardinals came back. They blocked a punt, and that put them into position, and Edmonds scored a TD. So it was 10-7. At the end of the day, Cardinals came back, and they won 24-20. I mean, San Francisco only ended up with 20 points, and they had 10 points within the first 10 minutes of the game. No, I think the first 6 minutes of the game. So, you know, they didn't do much after that. So Kyler Murray did great. He's a mobile quarterback in his second year. Now he has Hopkins there. I think he had some pretty good stats. What did he have here really quick? He threw for 230 yards. He had a rushing TD and a passing TD. Hopkins had a massive game, 14 catches for 152 yards. So he killed it in fantasy. If he would have had a touchdown, that would have been nice. But other than that, man, the Cards pulled off the upset against the 49ers.
That's crazy. I was expecting the 49ers to win.
Yeah, just to roll.
And then Brady with the Bucks, man.
Yeah,
He's like, wow.
What happened with that?
Well, besides what happened with that, he made right away his first touchdown. I mean, his first drive, right?
Yeah. And this is a good way to, you know, end it with Tom Brady and the Bucks because they played the Saints. They did play in New Orleans. They lost 23-34, but everybody's kind of hating on Brady, and you have to give the guy credit. It's his first year with a new team. He goes on the road to Drew Brees' house, and he's playing a Saints offense who's arguably one of the best teams in the NFC, if not the league. Mm-hmm. So you have to give this guy credit, man. You know, he didn't have a preseason, you know, to warm up with, but at the end of the day, he ended up with he was 23 for 36. He threw for 239 yards, 2 TDs. He did have 2 interceptions, though. One of them wasn't his fault. The receiver stopped on the route, and that just goes back to them not having the preseason to get used to each other. The other one, it was his fault. It was an easy pick, and they actually returned it for an interception. But it was funny because the very first play of the game, he scores a rushing TD.
I know.
From the 4, and you never see Tom Brady run.
I liked it.
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah,
man, that was awesome of him to do it. I mean, he's in a new team, and the first drive of the first game of the new season, he makes a statement by running the ball in and just getting the touchdown. That must have been a great. What kind of a feeling did he get from that? And then at his age, you know.
Yes, yeah.
And then they're also saying he's over the hill and stuff.
Oh yeah. Well, this was the first game ever in NFL history where you had two starting quarterbacks over 40 years old.
We got.